All right, hey VC, I'm Jamie. Welcome back. We are back with another video and back with more records to show. So let's get right to it and we'll see how far we get. Really happy to pick this one up. This is the band Ace, and the album simply an Ace album. They had that sort of 70s, almost kind of yacht rock sound, and it featured Paul Carrack, and he's kind of hard to recognize in these days with a full head of hair. That's Paul Carrack right there. And I like just the design to this album, and this does contain their big hit, How Long. This is a great album. Really enjoyed it. And nice to have the inner sleeve, and I like the band's kind of superimposed here with the blue scarves as opposed to all the red scarves. And this on a label, Anchor label, which I'm not familiar with, but I think that's a really cool label for that one. So Ace and an Ace album featuring How Long. All right, Ian Dury and the Blockheads. I was able to pick up the album Laughter. This is their third or fourth album, I want to say. And again, it's classic Ian Dury. I love the really funky sounds, and of course, all the humor in Ian Dury's music. But I like his really kind of heavy, funky sounds. Of course, it's punk slash funk, that sort of thing. And initially, I thought, oh, who did that? But I believe on the North American releases, these songs were sort of etched out or blackened out, if you will. And they do that on the label as well. Now, this one doesn't have, I believe it had a special inner sleeve. This one doesn't have that, but of course it's on the great Stiff label. I do love that Stiff Epic label. But if we have it on side one, yeah, it's even sort of not blackened out or blocked out, but you can sort of see there in terms of song one, it just says S's Big Sister, and then on side two, it just blocks out the word effing Ada. So you get the indication, but it was released that way in North America. I don't think in the UK it was released with the blacked out letters, but always happy to pick up any injury I can find. The band City Boy. This is a band I don't know a lot about. They have kind of a sort of a nice hard rock or heavy rock sound. City Boy and Heads Are Rolling. Great album. Really enjoyed this one. And this one came out on Atlantic Records. And I'm not sure the year this came out. I think this was 1980. This one does include the inner sleeve. So there's the band there. They do have a number of albums out. And simply on the Atlantic label. But City Boy. Okay, picked up this soundtrack. It was not a blind buy, but almost a blind buy because I couldn't remember the soundtrack to Lady Hawk, of course, featuring Michelle Pfeiffer. And this was produced by Alan Parsons. And funnily enough, it does have kind of an Alan Parsons kind of feel to it. Andrew Powell is the main music composer, orchestrated and conducted by Andrew Powell. And just note that the keyboard player is a fellow by the name of Richard Cottle. No relation, but there you go, Richard Cottle on keyboards. As I say, I really did enjoy this. And I don't know if it had an inner sleeve or not. I kind of doubt it, but that was on the Atlantic label. Another kind of blind buy from a band that's fairly obscure. Again, for somebody like Daryl at Off the Beaten Tracks, he might have more information about this band called Storm. I don't think they had too many albums. Female lead singer on this band. Kind of what you see is what you get. Pretty rockin' overall. Kind of radio friendly at the same time. This is late 70s, I want to say, 1979 on MCA. Love the cover. But enjoyable for sure. And this it did come with the lyric insert, which I was quite pleased to see. Quite simple. Respect, and then with the original MCA inner sleeve, and quite simply MCA Storm. I believe an American band. I'm pretty sure an American band from where I don't know. Always enjoy picking up third world albums. Now they have a very sort of slick kind of reggae style, but I still really enjoy it. It does have a lot of their sound has a lot of kind of 80s trappings. This came out in 1983, but still like really enjoyable to listen to. And this is All the Way Strong. And this also did come with the with the lyric insert that's blank on this side, and then you get all the lyrics on that side. Always kind of funny when they do that. You know, you think they'd put something on the other side, or some of the lyrics on one side, or something like that. Like the way it's blank on one side, but and then on the Columbia label. Okay, how about a little Canadian content for you? Here we go. I didn't even know this was out on vinyl. I remember when the CD came out. We're talking Stompin' Tom Connors, Fiddle and Song. If you don't know Stompin' Tom Connors, I don't know how to explain Stompin' Tom. His tongue firmly in cheek. You could write off Stompin' Tom as kind of novelty, but at the same time, he wasn't a novelty. But a lot of his songs are kind of, you know, again, tongue in cheek, a little on the fun side, including the song on here about Katie Lang called Lady Katie Lang. Now, it's a complete ode to Katie Lang, but the lyrics include, "She jumps around like orangutan, Lady Katie Lang." Yeah. But there's a beautiful song on here called "I Am the Wind," which is a beautiful song. So Stompin' Tom Connors, this came out, gosh, on Capitol in 1988 when Capitol not only acquired Stompin' Tom in terms of a new artist, but then re-released a lot of his catalog. But this one I wasn't familiar with, that it came out on vinyl, which is quite cool, with all the lyrics included. And then on the Capitol label. Stompin' Tom Connors, Canadian sensation. There you go. Nancy Sinatra. I've talked about having a weak spot for Nancy Sinatra, and this is Movin' with Nancy. So this is the soundtrack from her TV special, or one of her TV specials. So it's got Dean Martin featured on here, of course, Lee Hazelwood, and then it says a very close relative, and you can guess who that is. Now, when I took a look at the song listing, again, with TV specials, the way they often have stars, even though if they're a bit more rock and roll, not that she's, you know, full-on rock and roll, but they always have them do the sort of the big band numbers or the movie soundtrack numbers. And in fact, on here she does Who Will Buy, and then also with her dad Frank, they do Younger Than Springtime, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh. But overall, actually, it's got a good sound to it. It's got generally a pretty good song listing, you know, a few clunkers in there, but even then the production is really good. And even for a television soundtrack album, it sounds actually really good. So if you're a Nancy Sinatra fan, it's worth checking out. I was pleasantly surprised, and I do love the classic reprise label there. Okay, whenever I see a Dave Edmunds album, usually they're fairly inexpensive. I always like to pick up Dave Edmunds, and this is the album Twangin', which has that kind of vintage look to the cover. This came out on 1981 on Swan Song, and I keep forgetting that Dave Edmunds was on Swan Song. It's kind of a neat inner sleeve. Just love Dave Edmunds' sound, but then it's kind of like, oh wow, Dave Edmunds on the Swan Song label. Very nice. Always a fan of the Straubs, and picked this up, early Straubs. Now, this was a 2-album set, and I was thinking it was maybe sort of a collection of early Straubs, or, you know, pre-early Straubs, if you will. This is essentially the first 2 albums as a 2-album set, kind of a budget issue. This is a Canadian press, and quite nice. So this features the first 2 albums, but what's a little unusual about this release is that there's the song listing there. So again, and these are the first 2 album covers. This is the first album cover, and then this is the second one, Dragonfly. But you'd think if you have the 2 albums, right? First album would be the first album, second album would be the second album. No, on this one they have Dragonfly, which is the second release as side 1 here. Then side 2 is side 1 of the first album, and then side 3 is side 2 of Dragonfly, and then side 4 is side 2 of the first album. Follow that? I was a little surprised, but this and then the albums are just in here. I'll quickly get them out for you. And this does include a lyric sheet as well, which I was quite surprised. Often with these kind of budget releases, they don't often include a lyric sheet, but this does include what I'm thinking is the original sleeves as well. I do love those early A&M sleeves, you know, just the polyline sleeves back in the day when not too many record companies were doing that, but on the great A&M label. Early Straub. So this does have some Rick Wakeman featured on here, but Really love the proggy sounds of early Straubs. Okay, also quite a fan of this artist. Initially, I had only heard one or two songs from this artist talking about B.W. Stevenson, and this is a quadraphonic release, and the album is a Calabasas. Calabasas, I'm probably not pronouncing that great. If you see B.W. Stevenson albums, pick them up. He had the great hit My Maria, but this one he covers the song Please Come to Boston on here. Just a great voice and just a nice kind of country rock sound. Really have enjoyed all of the albums that I've come across, and this one no exception. But yeah, if you see B.W. Stevenson, usually the albums are fairly inexpensive on RCA. Pick them up because they are quite good. So this is a quad disc. RCA. Not that I have a quadraphonic system, that's for sure. Okay, picked up a couple of Jim Capaldi albums. This is a great one. This is Shortcut Draw Blood. Sometimes some of these Jim Capaldi albums I haven't been too thrilled with. This one I really did like. The first track, Goodbye Love, really sounds like Traffic, and in fact, Steve Winwood is featured on that song. I don't really care for his version of Love Hurts, the old Everly Brothers hit. I really don't like that, but the rest of the album is pretty solid. So when did this come out? This is on Island. I don't really have a date, but it does. It's 1975 on the Island label. And then picked up this one, Electric Nights. Maybe not as good. This was from 1979 on Polygram. But overall, as a solo artist, do enjoy his stuff. This one did not include the original inner sleeve, but this is a later release on RSO label. Okay, fan of Long John Baldry, and I've been picking up some of his albums lately. Again, just that interest in Long John Baldry through Elton John, and of course, Long John Baldry, you know, the history with Rod Stewart. But it's interesting with Long John Baldry, he has also quite a history in Canada because he emigrated to Canada and then continued on with a solo career. So this is Long John Baldry and Rock with the Best. And again, with his albums, they're just fun. You know, there's just a lot of fun on his albums. And this one features Kelly J on harp or harmonica, and Kelly J was from the band Crowbar, and they had the hit "Oh What a Feeling." And this was on Capitol when he came to Canada, and then another Capitol released the best of Long John Baldry, and this is generally okay. Again, a lot of covers on his solo stuff. So there's a cover of You've Lost That Loving Feeling. Also a cover of Love Me Two Times, the Doors hit. But again, fun, not earth-shattering, but, you know, I love his very unique voice. And on the Capitol Green label, which you don't see too often, Long John Baldry. Okay, how about Johnny Nash? I was thrilled to get this. I Can See Clearly Now, which, of course, contains that song and Stir It Up. Absolutely wonderful from start to finish. Johnny Nash, great voice, great performer. Beautiful album. Absolutely beautiful album. Really enjoyed this. 1972. A little bit of ring wear, but hey. And this on the classic Yellow Epic label. Okay, this is a reissue, and it's interesting. I remember when this came out, and this is an example of my younger self. I wouldn't have been necessarily into this, but I really do enjoy him now. I don't have much in my collection at all, but Tom Waits and Swordfish Trombone. So this is a reissue. Great album. Really enjoyed this album. The only odd thing with this reissue is that it does not include the original inner sleeve, and I don't quite know why, because I think the original sleeve had lyrics and other information, but it was in a nice polylined inner sleeve, and it was sealed when I picked this up, but it does not have the original inner sleeve. This is a Dutch press, it says, or made in the Netherlands. I don't know if that's necessarily either the jacket or the album, but I was a little surprised about that. Not even as an insert or anything like that, but whoops, there we go on the classic Island label, and a good weight to the album, but a great album. Just a little disappointed, but no inner sleeve, or at least original inner sleeve. Okay, here's another call out to Daryl at On the Beaten Tracks. I'll leave a link to his channel because he features some great obscure stuff, some fairly obscure Canadian stuff, and I don't know if he knows much about this band. I picked this up a complete blind buy. Didn't have to pay too much for this. And I don't know how the band's name is. Syncona, something like that. Kind of what you see is what you get. It's kind of light Caribbean, Jamaican kind of music. This came out in 1974, I think an independent release. Other than the write-up, I don't know much about this band at all. It seems like they were led by Dick Smith. There's one track on here called Pretty Little Melody that is like a children's song. It is brutal to listen to. The rest of the album is okay, but I don't know if Daryl at Off the Beaten Tracks knows anything about this. Let me know. And yeah, just an independent release from what I can see. And there you have it. Okay, an artist I've been really getting into, as I said, I had nothing about this artist on CD or anything like that, but talking about David Bromberg, Wanted, Dead or Alive. I do love this cover. I just think that this cover, obviously a takeoff on the King Kong thing, but I just love the angels or the women flying around and just kind of a little bit of the humor that's going on. But boy, the people that appear on this album, like Jerry Garcia, Phil Lesh, like a number of the Grateful Dead appearing on this one. He has kind of that bluegrass sound, but the albums aren't necessarily all bluegrass. There's enough sort of rock country and everything like that going on. And a lot of humor in the music as well, but a really interesting artist. I do enjoy his stuff. I don't know if this actually had an inner sleeve, designed inner sleeve or not, but this is on Columbia Records. David Bromberg, and this came out, what year did this come out? 1973 on Columbia CBS. Okay, I do like Randy Travis. I picked this up a fair bit ago, and I do tend to tend to listen to all the albums before I show them to you, so that's why things tend to get a little bit backed up in terms of my purchases. But Randy Travis, old 8x10, I can listen to this guy sing the phone book. I know Randy Travis has had a rather troubled career, but this came out in 1988, and that was the year my wife and I got married. So yeah, again, I just enjoy Randy Travis. Just easygoing style, nice voice. And of course on the Warner label. Okay, how about War and the Music Band? Whenever I see War albums, if I don't have them, I'll definitely grab them. I guess this was part of a series, and this was where War was going to change their name to the Music Band. They decided then to just go with the album called The Music Band, but then they had kind of a series of different albums called The Music Band. I think there was a live album as part of the series as well. I kind of like the on the back there. And again, early War is definitely better than sort of the later 70s, early 80s stuff. But I do love their sound, the kind of funky sound. It got much more commercial as the years went on. And then there's the album that was released sort of in the middle of this Music Band series, was this album called Outlaw. For More. This is a good record. I really did enjoy this one. This had some nice tracks on here. And this one, yeah, came out, I don't know if I'll be able to get a year for you. No, I don't have a year, at least on the cover. But this on RCA, 1982 on this one. On RCA. Okay, Cat Stevens, not necessarily his last album, but his last album before a lengthy hiatus or lengthy break from the music career. I really enjoyed this album, Cat Stevens and Back to Earth. I hadn't heard it before, and this was obviously some sort of library or radio copy on this one. I think they have reissued this as part of some of the Cat Stevens box sets that have been coming out, but wasn't sure what to expect from this album, and really happy to see the inner sleeve. Of course, got the nice punch out there. But yeah, really enjoyable album, and I do like the custom sleeve. As I said, it must have been a radio or library copy or whatever, but it's in decent shape. Yeah, it's in decent shape, surprisingly. Okay, here's an artist I've been picking up a ton of his albums. I usually find them for fairly cheap, and I have been enjoying them, is Dave Mason. Dave Mason, Course of Traffic, very briefly with Fleetwood Mac. Quite a lengthy solo career. This is another great one. This one is simply called Dave Mason. And this one came out in 1974. Great version of All Along the Watchtower on this one. Nice inner sleeve. But yeah, great voice, great guitarist. And recently, or fairly recently, within I think maybe the past 6 months or so, it's been Dave Mason and the Quarantine Band, where it's Dave Mason with Mick Fleetwood, members of the Doobie Brothers, including Michael McDonald, and they do a track. I can't think of the track off the top, but if you Google that on YouTube or search for it on YouTube, it is worth checking out for sure. I think it's the track Feeling All Right, as I remember. This one, maybe not one of my favorite Dave Mason albums. This is Split Coconut, and as you can see, a very Jimmy Buffett vibe going on here. This one's okay, but yeah, it really has a Jimmy Buffett vibe going on for this one. Of the Dave Mason albums I've picked up, it's definitely not one of my favorites. Dave Mason's Split Coconut. And this one, Dave Mason's Some Assembly Required. Very odd cover, Some Assembly Required. This came out in 1987 on Chumley Records, so I'm guessing an independent release, but another pretty solid Dave Mason album. As I said, 87, so I was a little concerned it was going to have some of the 80s, recording trappings, but it seems to kind of rise above that, if you will. Not a bad album at all. And on the very odd Chumley Records label. There you go. And one more Dave Mason album. How about Headkeeper? Another classic one. Great record. And yeah, this on Blue Thumb Records. And some nice artists featured on this one, including Rita Coolidge, Spencer Davis, and Graham Nash. Not bad. Little cutout at the top there, but that's not too bad. And on the great Blue Thumb Records label. Okay, another kind of blind buy from a band I didn't really know anything about, but they look kind of intriguing. The band Beat Rodeo. I want to say from New York City, but I could be wrong on that. And this is from 1985, Staying Out Late with Beat Rodeo. Kind of that country rock sound, which what's kind of interesting is that Beat Rodeo came out at about the same time as Blue Rodeo, Canada's Blue Rodeo. These guys are from the States that had a very similar sound. Now, I don't think Beat Rodeo is still going. Blue Rodeo, of course, is still going. But yeah, enjoyed the sound. It's got that kind of 80s country rock thing, or alt country, if you want to call it that. But really enjoyable. And on a great label, IRS label. So there's that one, and then there's I have Beat Rodeo, Home in the Heart of the Beat. Again, this is a promo copy, which is kind of cool. And this one is from 1986. But yeah, just the similarities to Blue Rodeo are interesting. That. And then on the great IRS label. So yeah, an interesting label for this band to be on. Okay, how about some Black Oak, or Black Oak, Arkansas, or whatever they want to be called. This time they're simply Black Oak, so this is Race with the Devil. And that classic 70s look for so many bands when they had to appear either shirtless or in the nude for whatever reasons. And here we go with Black Oak, Arkansas. And this one is an American press because it does include the merch sleeve. So this is stuff that you can pick up. Often for the Canadian releases, we wouldn't get these because these are mainly for like American addresses or American prices on these. So they would often leave these out for Canadian releases, but this is an American press, and it does have the original Capricorn Records inner sleeve, which is kind of cool. And do love that Capricorn label. This is Black Oak as opposed to Black Oak, Arkansas, where they drop that, and we're kind of trying to get a little bit more commercial with their sound, which really happens on this one. This is getting a lot more sort of commercial sound for Black Oak, or Black Oak, Arkansas. Not a bad record, but, the earlier stuff much better. As you can see here, I mean, talk about going for yacht rock sound. So this is on Capricorn, and this is from 1978. You can still with the Capricorn Records label, inner sleeve, and on Capricorn. Okay, and boy, if we go from that to this band Blackfoot, man, do they rock! This is the album Tomcattin, and these guys rock heavy. This is from 1980, you know, and again, you know, when you still could have had, you know, trying for a more commercial sound or anything like that, these guys rock. Yeah, if you check out Blackfoot, definitely a band worth checking out on the Atco label. Okay, and of course the Scottish rockers Nazareth. This is 2XS, or however you pronounce this album title. Not maybe one of the best Nazareth albums. I was able to pick this up quite cheaply, so I grabbed that. As I say, I have that Nazareth box set that has all of their stuff on CD, but I didn't have this one on vinyl. But, you know, worth checking out, certainly, for Nazareth. Another band on vinyl I've been really getting into. I didn't have any of their stuff on CD at all. I've shown them before, and I've been able to come across a little bit more Steel Eye Span. And this is the album Rocket Cottage. Do love that cover. And this one was still in the shrink. And happy to pick this up. I do like the real folky sounds of Steel Eye Span on the great Chrysalis label. This was individually and collectively a Steel Eye Span. This, I believe, is a UK press, and I think this is where they switched from their label and then went to Chrysalis, so it's kind of like early and collected Steel Eye Span stuff. Not a bad album, but as you can see, this on Charisma for £1.49. The cover's not in the best of shape. It's a little water damaged, but the album plays great, but I was not familiar with this album at all. But again, you know, the continued folky sounds of Steel Eye Span and on the great Charisma label. And then we got Steel Eye Span, A Parcel of Rogues. And this one, a nice gatefold. And when did this one come out? This was on Chrysalis, 1973. And on the Chrysalis label. And then we've got just one more, but how about two more from Steel Eye Span? This is the great Below the Salt, and this features the Christmas song. Is it pronounced Gaudette or Gaudet? There, which is a kind of a Christmassy kind of song, but I love the cover. I love what's going on. Lots going on this cover. Let's see if I can open that up for you and get you more of the... There you go. And this on the Chrysalis label. And one more, a live album, Steel Eye Span, Live at Last. And this was an interesting band because they had that really sort of folk sound, that folk rock sound, but then they obviously loved early 50s music. And even on this one, they do a version of the Four Seasons Ragdoll. And this one had some tape around, so I think this again was like a library copy, and just the way it's got the sort of the date there pasted on. So I think this was a library copy. Thankfully, it plays okay. But again, on the Chrysalis label, Live at Last. And this one came out in 1978. Okay, how about a Ry Cooder soundtrack album, Blue City, motion picture soundtrack by Ry Cooder. At first glance, you're thinking, oh boy, you know, you're going to have some 80s sounds. This is a really nice album. I like Ry Cooder's movie soundtrack stuff, and this one's still in the shrink. Give the Gift of Music. And this one came out, what year was this? 1986. It came out in the 80s, obviously, but yeah, 1986. But a really enjoyable album. Absolutely enjoyable. Oh, okay, on Warner Brothers. And how about Steve Winwood, Refugees of the Heart? And I think now I've got most of Steve Winwood, at least a good chunk of his solo stuff, be it on CD or on vinyl. This one was another good one. This one came out in 1990. Starting to change his style just a little bit, maybe kind of trying to get away from the, you know, the super pop sounds he was doing. But another pretty solid Steve Winwood album. And on the Virgin label. Okay, and carrying on, how about a couple of Bob Dylan albums? I was able to pick up Saved. I did not have this album. I think of the trilogy of these albums, I do think this one is the best. This is a good, pretty solid album. Maybe not everybody's favorite phase of Bob Dylan, but in terms of the albums that he was releasing at the time, I think this is a pretty good one. Now this has gone under a couple of different covers. This is the original cover, but I think that's also been used as the cover, but this is the inner sleeve. But working with a great band, and overall a really good sound. Bob Dylan on Columbia, of course. And gosh, when did this come out? This was 1980. Gosh, hard to believe it goes back that far. And an album I was not familiar with, again, a soundtrack album, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. Great album. I don't know, I know there's not a lot of Dylan vocals on this album, but I think, haven't seen the movie, but I think just as listening to it, I really enjoy just the overall sound on this album and just everything that they're trying to kind of capture with this record. Really enjoyed this one. And this, of course, on, surprise, surprise, Columbia. Okay, how about Manfred Mann's Earth Band, The Good Earth? Now, this I do love the concept of this album where you could actually, the owner of this album was entitled to the rights over 1 square foot of the earth situated in a spot in the UK, in Wales, in fact, subject to registration on or before December 31st, 1975. So this does not include the original inner sleeve, but I guess on the inner sleeve it gave you more information about how you could actually send away for that little plot of land in Wales. It's kind of an eco-friendly thing, and apparently it was a huge success when this was released at the time. But another solid Manfred Mann Earth Band album. I really do like Manfred Mann's Earth Band. I've always enjoyed Blinded by the Light, but the albums I've been picking up, each one has been really, really good. Okay, and maybe one more for this one. How about Bachman Turner Overdrive and the album Head On? And I totally forgot about the cover of this one. This is another solid Bachman Turner Overdrive album. Take It Like a Man, all the hard drive and stuff. They do a song called Looking Out for Number One, which is a little bit more of a ballady, jazzy kind of thing. But I forgot that this album, the cover, was something you could make into a poster, and I'll show you that in just a bit. It kind of opens up on here. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this properly. It's kind of like, it's almost like a basic gatefold, but there's no information on the spine here, because the idea was that you were to take this and then make it into a poster. So this would be the inner sleeve. Now, does the inner sleeve have a spine on this as well? Yeah, so the inner sleeve has the information on the spine, and then the record inside. So you got BTO, Head On, and often if you see this, in a used record, often you'll just see this, because a lot of people would have put the poster up on the wall, and this on the Great Mercury label. But I won't be able to open it up for you completely, but kind of give you the indication. So this would be the top half of the poster, and then you would just split it here, and then this would be the bottom half of the poster. So you would put this up on your wall, of course, or whatever. But I thought that was a fairly interesting, clever idea as a way to include a poster, but just have it as part of the actual album jacket. So there you go. That's BTO, more hard rock and early 70s stuff from Bachman Turner Overdrive. And maybe we'll throw in one more. This is the Shadows Greatest Hits. This is a UK press on EMI Records / Columbia. Love the Shadows. I just think I've just got a soft spot just for the stylistics of the band. And yeah, it's got a little bit of a sticky thing going on here. I don't know why that is, but the Shadows Greatest Hits. So you get some great instrumental stuff going on here, for sure. And again, it's got that sort of thin jacket that you often get with some of the UK presses, but love the label on Columbia, EMI Columbia, for the UK press on that. Okay, that's going to wrap it up for this one. Thank you so much for dropping by, and we'll chat again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.